so been drying, really happy, no problem with it at all, you know, done and dusted. So now what we can actually do is get on with the lacquer work. Now, for this particular one, as I said, it's purely for the decaling, and also it's our first stage down, all right? So normally when you're doing lacquering and glossing, now, from my point of view, there's two slight differences I call from lacquering and your normal glossing. Your normal glossing, a great one to use is Tamiya's gloss. Clear gloss is fantastic, and anybody else's gloss that's out there. So that's basically it. All the major manufacturers make their own. There's different types of it. There's acrylic, there's polyurethane glosses, you name it, they are all on the market, okay? When you're actually doing lacquering though, I think it is slightly different. Now I know technically it's exactly the same thing, but from my point of view, when you're glossing something, you're just giving it a nice shiny finish, okay, to put things down on, okay? Lacquering though, I maintain it's a little bit more like putting down a coat of paint. This is something we've done recently quite a lot. We've spoken about it a lot, and this thing is covered in fingerprints because everything's been handling it, but generally you get the idea. This is what glossing and lacquering is all about, okay? This is what I call a lacquer finish. It's extremely high gloss, okay? It's not just shiny and glossy looking, it has a mirror-like quality to it. Now, have a look back at the Ducati build if you haven't seen it already. The latter parts will talk all about this as well. This is going to be a little bit more in depth, okay? And at the time of doing this, I haven't done it yet, but the next couple of weeks, I'm going to cover lacquering on its own a lot more, okay? So basically what we're going to do is put down a lacquer coat as our first layer, okay? You could just gloss it, no problem at all, a nice shiny finish, but we're going to lacquer it so it's like a mirror, i.e. it looks like it's wet even when it's dry, purely so we can start to build up the coats we're going to need to give this thing a perfect finish, okay? Now, obviously we could, if you wanted to, just decal straight onto this as well, but again, we want the decals to settle down as best as they can, and we know by lacquering it's the perfect finish for your normal decals to go onto. So, in short, make sure you've got a dust-free environment. You will be running your extractor for at least half an hour before you spray. Again, like we said about the paint, get the airborne particles out of the way, okay? Nice clean surfaces, you want to have nice clean airbrushes and absolutely everything else like that. So when you come along and you're coming in with lacquer and you're putting your lacquer coat down and things like that, it is in the best possible situation you can have. So what we're going to do is show you about cleaning out like we've done, because it's still here. I just talk roughly about cleaning out your airbrush before you come in with a clear coat. Really, what do you need to do? Well, obviously this has got yellow paint in it, so you couldn't just give it a quick clean. Otherwise, what's going to happen is this yellow is going to contaminate this and everything is going to have a yellow tinge, okay? So what you want to do is give it a proper, good, deep clean out, all right? So a couple of things we'll just do. We've got our little dump pot here. And what we'll also have is our little pipette. So actually what we're going to use, because we're using lacquers in a minute, is lacquer thinners, all right? So we've got lacquer thinners going down in here. We've got a brush here, okay? And we're just going to ease out everything that's down in here. Now you just move these just in case they get plastered. I don't want to get speckled in yellow bits. Okay, so you see we're going green here because we've got yellow and there's a bit of blue left on the brush, okay? And we've emptied this out, all right? And then we're just going to come in with the pipette again, a few more drops just down in there, and we're going to blow it through. Okay, and then obviously normally we might just come along with some cotton buds to get the grounding stuff off out the top, around the neck area of this one, because obviously it needs a colour cut to go down in it. All right, and we just grab a little bit more thinners. Okay, just down in here like this. Work this brush down in amongst in here. And then we're going to blow this through. Okay, put a bit more in, and we're going to blow it through. Okay, and then if we have a look down here, we'll just show you in here. You can still see we're getting yellow coming out, and when we stop we get a lot more, so we can use what we've sprayed down to clean around our airbrush. Okay, and we've got a little bit of yellow on the side, so we can use it to squeeze all this off. All right, but what's going to happen is we put another little bit more down in here. You can be thinking, oh look, we're getting quite clear now. All right, but the thing is, if you do it on white, you can see exactly what you've got. What can happen is you can still get bits come through. So technically you think, right, okay, well that's clean, no problem with that at all. Move on, next thing. What I'm going to do is just quickly show you what can be left and causing it, okay? So if we grab a clean towel, what was basically clear coming through, obviously you don't want things like this in your lacquer. So look, we've actually got paint off of the needle, okay, where it's gripping onto the needle, okay? So you need to actually make sure your needle is completely clean and free. And then from our point of view, we'll just do a quick disassembly to show you some of the other areas where we can get it. Okay, the back of the nozzle itself. This type of stuff is all the particles that can come in and affect your thing. Now I can see daylight down in there, it looks quite clean, all the rest of it. But we'll just take our cleaning tool. Okay, so we just pop this in here. And we're just going to have a quick roam around in here. Okay, and then again, look what's coming out. These are all particles which can affect your clear coats. Okay, so you need to make sure that these are all absolutely spotless before you come through, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're thinking, oh yeah, we're all nice and clear, we're all good to go, and then literally you get a clear, perhaps a dark blue part appears on your yellow work, or vice versa, things like that. It's well worth just spending a few moments just like this to disassemble completely your airbrush, okay, and pop it all back together so you know you're running clean. Okay, because this is the secret. Now, in the ideal world, you'll have two airbrushes, okay? You'll have one that does just clear work and everything else like that, okay? But perhaps you might have a different medium. You know, we're using an automotive lacquer versus a normal clear gloss and everything else like that. So we're just gonna fill this guy up again in here, and we're just gonna blow through, and you can see these little small particles. That's just stuff we've dislodged. Big bit of painty stuff just shot out then as well, okay? So we're just going to do one final flush. Just down in here, and we're blowing out. And you're just making sure it runs completely clear. And we're still getting the odd little fleck come out, but I'm pretty happy with that now. So what we'll do, we're just going to grab our bigger colour cup and stick him on the top. Just like that. And then what we're going to do is just going to coat the inside of this colour cup with our let's put that down there, with the thinners as well, because look, all these particles coming out, I think that's from the colour cup where it's dumped them in there, okay? Pumping the trigger, flicking it all out, getting rid of all the nasties, all the dusty bits and everything else, because I learned the hard way in recent builds that what you think is clean and clear literally isn't, okay? Right, so knocking up your lacquer mix, okay, pretty straightforward. We've got a little colour cup down here, so we're going to pour in some thinners just because it's getting a bit low for my pipette to reach. We're not going to need gallons of it. This is just going to be one thin coat running over it just like that. So down in here we've roughly got, I reckon, around about, I don't know, maybe 4 mil of lacquer, of thinners, sorry, get it right, Flory. Okay, and then what we'll do, we're just going to make up a 50-50 mix with our lacquer that we've got in, okay? So we're going to put it in just like that, and we can use our brush down here because it's only thinners. And when you brush it, you might notice it looks a little bit like alcohol in a glass. You want to keep mixing it until it goes clear, okay? And you want it to run totally clear so you can't see anything in there. And when you brush it on the side, you don't see anything or anything else like that. Put that in there. Okay, then you want to have a look at it, and you want it to be nice, watery, totally crystal clear, just like that. So let's just move these, and then we're going to take our mix, pop a little bit in the colour cup, not gallons of it, okay, just in the colour cup. We're going to check our flow. Very dirty, obviously I'm going to do one, and then I'm going to run over to the spray booth. We'll do this guy down on here. So again, like we've done all our other work, it's going to be the same way as we did the blue and all the rest of it. We are literally just going to shoot it away from us, starting down around here, okay, and coming off. So we're just going to turn the pressure, okay. Exactly the same as we did the blue, just this is obviously with the clear, and then off we go. Okay, so it's nice and wet as it goes over. I'll just change my grip. Okay, right the way over, making sure we've done down in those intakes. And we're just going to do one little pass right the way over, making sure we've got the top glossed in as well, and as you can see, it's horrible, it's cloudy, it's gone airborne. I'm just going to hit the extractor because it's nasty stuff. You'll see it all pull that way. It's a very good extractor, but hopefully you can see that is all done just like that. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, you want to get it down and then get yourself a Tupperware bowl, salad bowl, something else like that, and cover it. Okay, it's not going to take long to go off because it's not a massively thick coat. It's only going to take literally a couple of minutes, and then it won't be handleable, but you don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, it will get a skin on it and everything else like that. You could do the hairdryer technique as well, but with gloss I tend to find you want it just to sit there and then just leave it and let it go off on its own. So what I'm going to do now is obviously get that running, get this all out of the way. You can see it literally going past me. Alright, we're going to do everything else that needs to be glossed. We're going to do exactly the same way. So obviously we're going to go over to the spray booth and we're going to actually take care of the rear plate. We've got the nose, we've got the back parts, all the parts that are still on the sprue, we can actually gloss all of those, all the blue ones and everything else, and not forgetting the all important nose, which we've just done. One little tip though, with your bolt, as you've got it down in here looking very glossy, just stick something underneath it so it can vent. Okay, so the air can physically get around it, but obviously no particles can come down on it just like that. The other thing as well, don't panic about it, because if you have got bits and pieces in it, don't worry, we can sand it down like we'll probably need to do anyway, get rid of all the particles, any imperfections, things like that, and we can sand them out, give it another coat, and then that way those will all vanish in time as it goes right the way through. But anyway, it's just exactly the same technique, shooting past it, coming across, it's wet, it goes on, it sticks. That will take around about an hour to dry. Okay, as soon as it's dry, what we can do is have a good look at it. If it needs sanding and reglossing, obviously we'll do that. If it doesn't look too bad, we can get straight on, get the decals on, get them fitted in and regloss it totally, leave it overnight and then put it all together. Okay, so organised chaos as always. So what we're actually doing now is on with the decaling. Obviously the clear coat's all dried, so you can see beautiful, nice, shiny, glossy finish. It's not a perfect finish, don't get me wrong, we've still got to do a little bit more work to it. There's a few little imperfections in there, some little things that need sanding out, but what we can actually do is get the decals down onto it. Then with the next one we can come along and actually then put down a very thin clear coat just to see all the decals down, get them in there, then a heavy one afterwards, which is the important one. So what are we doing with the decaling? So we're catching up with a few areas we needed to. So down here we've got this carbon fibre finish. It's a little bit tricky because it's actually 3 decals and they don't exactly like to run around each other, shall we say, the quite complex curves. So what I've actually been doing is I've been using a little bit of X20A, which I got in a bottle, take no notice of the bottle, which is Tamiya thinners, acrylic thinners, because that works very well with these decals. They tend to soften, melt and weld down all in one. Now, as you can imagine, it's pretty complex and this is why we've done it this way. Okay, so this guy down here, as you can see, it's all been decaled up, really nice. The decals are snuggling beautifully down, as you can imagine, with this type of lovely glossy finish. So actually what we've done, we've got these side ones on. Quite easy to work this one out, to be honest, because it's 90 degrees down the side, and then obviously we've got this eyelet for where we've got the suspension coming in, and then we've got another one at the front. Okay, so all in all, that's pretty straightforward, no problem with those, as you can see going down. The ones up the middle, again, no problem with that at all. We've got this big one that runs up here, runs right up to the actual little nodule that's hanging out the top. Number 6 for Mark Webber, and then it's just a case of going around. The decals are all cut exactly to the right dimensions, so it will still all come apart, so it's not like it overlaps. So for instance, as you can see down here, this isn't actually me cut it, it's done already in this position, so that way it goes in. Your only one, it's quite tricky to get this to conform in, was the actual red ball at the front. Now the other half of it is on this bit of decal down here, and he's going to sit on the here like this, which will go on the rear part, but putting this in and getting it to conform in and bend in on itself, again, that's where the X20A came in, and as you can see, there's a few little scuffs and little marks in there that still need to take place, but no problem really. Same with the nose, so we've attached the nose on the front, 2-part, and as you can see, we've done this black underside is now under here, just like this. 1-piece decal runs up through the middle. It hides all those little imperfections we thought we had, so no problem with those. So that's those ones gone on. On the rear, as you can imagine, just lining these guys up, red and ball, obviously 2 separate ones, and then on the back we've painted the lower part of the spoiler in black, and then obviously we've got the mobile on the back there. Down here on the front, we did a little bit more work. We've done the end plates in black. So again, we use the black base. It's a nice color. And we've got the actual red and bull down here, just like this. Obviously, it's a two-part decal. So you've got one part up here at the top and then the lower one, the same on the other side. Okay, so no problems with those. These little guys we spent a little bit of time with. Again, we've done anything that's a 90-degree or vertical is done in black now on these. The ones looking down, obviously still in blue. So there we have the red for that side, and then we have the bull in there, two-part decal for that side. Okay, so that's ready to go together. We've also got this guy here, which is the end fence. Again, the inside is done in black and the rear fence back here has been done in black as well. So that's ready to go on, and that's going to be on this side. This little guy fixed to it. We'll talk about that later once it's glossed down. Over here, again, very complex curves on these, so it makes it a little bit of a handful to actually get these to go in and bed down, all right? But basically, these are the ones which sit in here like this. They're going to sit in the top there, and that's going to give you your red ball part of there. They're a little bit all over the place, but they haven't been done that long. And we've got exactly the same for the other side, all right? So those just go on just like that, very straightforward. Rest of the spoiler system we've got here. So on the inside, obviously it's done in black. So we've got the Bridgestone, okay, and the TV one there. Then on the outside, one piece decal, very straightforward. It covers absolutely everything like that. The only trouble is lining up these tops. What I'm going to do is, you can see on these, you've got these veins. I'm actually going to slit it with a knife afterwards so they're completely open. At the moment it's clear film over the top. It will make those all bed in a lot nicer and go through. So decaling, we've covered it a million times before, but I just show you really about lining it up and making it all work like that. So what we've actually got here, if we just do one side with you, let me just work out which side we are going to do. Okay, so I think if we do this side will probably be the best. Okay, so we've got the red, and we'll have the bull will be on this side, just making sure it is all right round with the tyre and the rear part. Again, the trouble is lining all of these things up, because technically what we've got to do now is match this into this. Okay, so it's going to sit on here just like that. All right, so if you wanted to, you could tape technically these two together and make sure they're all fitting in and correctly and lining up, which probably is not a bad idea really. Okay, so what you can actually do, I think we will attempt that. All right, so what we'll do, actually, I think we'll do a little bit of tack. No, we'll use tape. The reason we'll use tape is purely because if you use blue tack in there or our white tack, what can happen is that if it suddenly all starts to come apart and adrift, it can affect, obviously, pushing through the actual thinners we might use, might track, and all those different things. So we just come in here with a nice thick Tamiya tape, just to make sure we're all in and down. Okay, so that one's on there now. So we'll hopefully, when we put these all together, it should line this all up. Now we'll take the rear ones off. So usual things, in with a clamp, warm water. If you've boiled a kettle for a cup of tea, use that afterwards, because boiled water works absolutely fine. Okay, and then we've got the actual red and bull. Okay, so the thing is, as you can see here, technically what we've got is red bull that's going to go on this side, but if you look at these stripes on the top, that's for the other side. So just be careful when you're picking out your various signs and things like that to make sure they all are the correct side, because left and rights notoriously don't add up particularly well. Now for this one, all these decals going down on here, they're very nice decals. They go down a treat, so we're not actually using any softeners and setters up front. We're using them if we need them afterwards. Some of this stuff is so nice and glossy that honestly we really don't need it. So what we can have, that's the one for that side. We need the one for this side, which is over here. Okay, so we'll just snip this guy off, just drop this down in here, let the water start to do its bit. Okay, set it down here, it should be fine. Okay, so we'll start with the red ball on the top. So it's just starting to slide from the backing paper, and that's what we want. We'll just move some of this out of the way. So all your decals, when they're going down, rule of thumb, okay, first of all, patience. Take your time, don't rush it. Secondly, keep them wet and moist and movable all the time until you're ready, okay? So don't let them suddenly start to stick, because as soon as they start to stick, you can't move them. You get pressurized into positioning them right where they are, and sometimes, as we know, that's not the best effect, okay? You also want it to be nice and slippy on the backing paper. It should be slipping and sliding very easy, okay, down there. So what we'll do is we're just going to grab our brush and we're just going to preload this area all down here. Then we're just going to grab our ball, roughly place it and drop him in. Okay, then it's just going to be a case of working it all out exactly where you're going to go, and amazingly that's perfect first time, which is definitely more luck than judgment. Okay, so if you've got it down perfectly, I take the water, to be honest I rub it on my trousers, and then I push away with my brush. Okay, and I'm not using a cotton bud yet, because I find a cotton bud sometimes it grips just a little bit too well and then can cause problems. Okay, so I'm really happy with the position of that. We've got most of the water out now, so we're just going to use a cotton bud, and for the start with we're just going to go around and collect all the moisture from off of the decal. Okay, then once it's in, starting from the middle of the decal, we're rolling this out towards the outside to squish all the water out from under it. Now this one I don't think we're going to have a problem with our usual thing of silvering, because we are on a very, very high gloss finish. Okay, so that goes down there just like that, and then what I tend to do is I'll get a little bit of extra thin, just place it down on my cutting mat, keep it away from obviously all your items, grab a little bit on your brush. Okay, just going to the edges and right over the middle of the decal, because what this will do is soften it as well as make it grip. So by softening it, it will help it conform. Okay, so it just goes over there like that. Now we should have no problems because you've got an enamel lacquer underneath, so you can brush on there as much as you like. But that's it on there now. Gone down, no problem whatsoever, looking really, really nice. So the next one we'll do is this guy that's going to run on the top. Okay, so we'll just get rid of that. We'll just pick this guy up now. Okay, brush off the thinners, prep the area, and as you can see it beads. I know it's very difficult for the camera to pick up. Alright, so that's beading on there just like that. Then what we'll do, this one's technically back to front, so we're just going to place it down roughly. Because it's wet, it should slide, and then all we're going to do is line it up with this back decal. Now there is going to be a small gap there by its nature of how this all is. I don't think we can get away, but what we're trying to do is make sure we are as close as we can on that front. Okay, so again we're just going to take away all the excess from on the outside and then down in here. You know, we're going to be displaying this with it open. Okay, it's a tiny little bit of readjustment. Okay, got a little kink just there like that. So actually what we're going to do is going to put the brush underneath, and it's wet, and we're going to lift and slide, and hopefully what that will do is just get it to fall in the right place. And as you can see, we've almost got rid of that join back there. Brush away the excess water, and once you've got most of it out, you can be a little bit more aggressive with it and push that down hard. Okay, so that's that one in there, joined up very nicely. Okay, right, next up we actually can do the red bull on the side. Okay, this is quite straightforward because it's actually, I do believe, going to follow the panel on the actual side here. Okay, so again we're just going to preload the area, plenty of water, because this is a big decal. Okay, and I'm just going to slide some off the paper, pop this down on, and slide off more. Okay, then what we're going to do, just going to look at it how it actually sits. It looks like it sits very low. Okay, and again we're all going to be about lining up the leading edge, making sure that's straight. Then we're going to brush it back so it comes out all facing the correct directions. And again, because it's a bigger one, we're just going to wipe away the excess with the brush, because the brush picks up the excess water, takes it all away, and then we can come in rub away. Okay, and to be honest, these decals are lovely, no problem with them at all. They're going down an absolute treat, they're fitting beautifully and everything else like that, and there we go. What we'll do as well, before we pull this apart, we'll actually let it semi-dry. Okay, so we don't want it to be totally dry because we don't want to tear it pulling it apart, but we do want it to be somewhat dry. All right, so there we go, that's those on there, just like that. And that's it really, very, very simple. Lovely work on a gloss, but just take your time, get one edge in straight so you know it's good. So obviously up here we used the leading edge, all right? So obviously it all lined up with the rest of the ball. Down here on the other hand, obviously we use the actual line of the panel, all right? And then on the top, just making sure it's almost invisible join between the two. There's a small one here and it looks worse on camera than it does to my naked eye, okay? But the rest of it is perfect. So there's a tiny little one there that may need a little adjusting. I've just noticed we've got a tiny little pinprick air bubble down there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use a knife. Okay, we're just going to slip that just to let that out, and then we're just going to come back a little bit of thinners, same way, the good old way, and we'll let that go down, and we'll just put the thinners now right over these and right over Mr. Red Bull. This is just to soften it and conform it. It's not that we got silvering and all of that. It's just going to help it all stick down just that little bit more. Okay, so that's it. Very happy with that. No problem at all. All right. So what I'll do is we'll get going with the rest of it. Complete all the other ones, and to be honest, there isn't many to do now. I've got it. And then what we can do, we'll leave this overnight, totally dry. Come back, check for silvering, see if we have got any. If not, then next step up. Good lacquer coat right the way over it. This is our sort of the last before one lacquer coat to seal down the decals. We'll let that dry for a couple of hours, come back, check it, polish it, re-lacquer it, which will be the final one. Then we're in with final assembly.